Hi, this is Steve with xLights. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I had a comment from one of my previous videos about the mini trees that are behind me, so I thought I'd take a few minutes in this video to show you how they're made. I'll start with the inspiration, then I'll go into the design and measurements, how it was wired, and then how it's set up in xLights. This channel is dedicated to help you with your light show, so if you find this video useful, hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content. Now let's get right to it. When I started researching pixel light shows back in 2017, I ran across a bunch of videos shared by the Stoffergens, and their house was decorated like a custom Whoville house, and they had these mini trees that were just really neat to look at. So I was inspired to create and make my own mini trees that look like that. Nowadays, there's a lot of vendors out there that sell mini trees, so you can save yourself a lot of time by purchasing those. But if you're willing to go for it and make something completely custom, let me show you how I designed this one. So here's one of the mini trees, and I'm going to measure from the bottom of the mini tree to top is 34 inches. Then going from side to side, it is 20 inches. This is 3/4 inch EMT, and I do pound a piece of 1/2 inch rebar into the ground, the same length that I use for the arches, and that I also showed in a video on how to take rebar out of the ground. Rebar sticks out of the ground maybe like 18-20 inches, and these just sit on top, so it keeps them from falling over. You can see on the back here, there are zip ties. So I pre-drilled on this back piece a bunch of holes here, so that way I can run zip ties around the EMT to hold that in place. And then in these corners here, there's holes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to run zip ties around to then hold the corners. These mini trees are bent. You can see they have a crease here in the line in the middle, and I'll show you how I achieve that bend. If you look at the back of these mini trees, you'll see each one is the same, and I went ahead and pre-wired them with an input and also an output. This one just happens to be the end of the line for one of the two. Any of these mini trees can be placed anywhere in the yard because they're cut and designed the same way. And in this case, I just have a cap because it was the end of the line. If you look at the layout of the pixels here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, essentially. The middle columns are uniform, so it's almost like a matrix, each with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pixels. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns with 12 pixels. Those are pretty uniform. And I wanted a look where the left side and the right side was not symmetric. So this left side here has 12 pixels, and on the right side here has 13 pixels. And for me, I really wanted to have the yard filled with these mini trees. So the arches are up front, and I have 12 of these all throughout the middle. And if you look at my videos, you'll see they are spaced out. They are kind of random, but once I figured out where I wanted to put them, I set them out in the yard. I sit in the middle of the street to kind of see where they sit, and then I had my family move them around so that way they were uniformly distributed, yet not in a straight line or in a straight pattern across the yard. So 85 pixels per mini tree. You're probably wondering, Steve, why 85? Did you just pull that out of a hat? Well, no, not really. A lot of thought went into why I chose 85 pixels per mini tree in this case. I have a single F16 V3 that I use to drive my entire show, and in the yard is a diff receiver with 4 outputs. So my goal was to maximize the number of pixels per output, so that way I didn't have to get another controller. Now this may be different for everyone else, but this was my goal. So I wanted a number of pixels per mini tree to be something that was easily divisible by 510 or 512. That number of pixels per output let me drive 40 frames per second for my show. And with 85 pixels per mini tree, I'm able to chain up to 6 mini trees on a single output. So for my 12 mini trees, I'm only using 2 controller outputs. If you saw my video for how to chain pixel props like a champ, what I did there was basically the same thing that I do with these mini trees. I have a single controller output that goes to 2 mini trees. Those 2 mini trees then get a power injection to the next 2 mini trees, which then gets power injected to the last 2 mini trees. And with 6 mini trees chained like that, that's a total of 510 pixels. Here's a template I used to create the mini tree, and then I use this template to cut all the rest of them. I'm gonna measure from the top to the bottom. Each of these panels, each of these sections of 5, from the top to the bottom is 34 3/4 inches long. So it follows kind of a flat and a flat and flat radius here. And once you create a template, then you can fold them as well. So it's all 34 3/4. The width here across the bottom of each section is 6 1/4 inches. It's about 6 inches. That's 6 1/4 inches, 6 1/4, 6 1/4. I think I was going for 6 1/4, and when you hand cut these things, it's not quite exact. At the top, the spacing between each part is about 1 inch. So 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. We look at the spacing of the holes themselves. I wanted to make sure I didn't have any splices within the mini tree. So you can see on the sides, no 2 pixels that I have to jump is more than the 4-inch wiring that I have. So I think I was shooting for 3 inches or less. Actually, it's a little under 4 inches for these bottom 2 pixels. It's 3 3/4. And if you have to jump across, it's 3 3/4, 3 3/4, 3 3/4. And so even up here as I'm jumping around, no 2 pixels holes are more than 3 3/4 inches. So that way my 4-inch spaced pixels would fit in nicely without having to do any splicing. For these side holes, they are right about 4 1/2 inches apart from each other. It's about 4 1/2 inches, 4 1/2 inches, all the way up the side. And these holes are drilled about 3/8 of an inch off of the edge, so that way you can connect it to the backer piece. I initially drew a single line with a straight edge with a pen, and then I came back and took a blade and cut a V-notch. So I went on the right side and cut a notch, and went on the left side and cut a notch. You kind of get a feel for it as you're cutting down, so that way you don't cut through it, but just through the top layer. And the reason why you want to cut those notches is so you can fold these in. If you don't cut those notches, then you won't get a nice edge on the fold. Okay. So once you have those notches made, then you can fold them over, and you get the nice crease in a mostly straight line. And as you saw, let me flip it over. You can see every time I put a piece of blue tape, that's where I made a mistake, or I drilled a hole and decided I didn't want a hole there. So you can kind of see on all these mini trees, I numbered this. This is looking at the front. So when I push the pixels from the back, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 to 24 is a straight line. 25 to 36 is a straight line. 37 is right in the middle, straight down is a straight line. 49 to 60 is a straight line. And then for the last part, well, not quite. There's two more columns here. So I went 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. So even though these last 2 columns aren't perfectly straight up and down, xLights does handle it just fine. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So I've had these mini trees in my show for 6 seasons, going on to the 7th season. And this is the first time I'm going to have to cut one open. Fortunately, I have not had any dead pixels in any of these trees. So let me cut it open, and you can see what it looks like inside. As stated earlier, each of these mini trees has a pigtail in and a pigtail out. I take this back plate off. You now see the inside. The pixels are a little dirty. These used to sit outside and get a lot of pollen on them. But as you can see, it starts over here on this side, pigtail in, goes around up, down, across up, down, up, and then a funky path zigzag on its way back down to the last pigtail going out. Now with all my props, what I do is power balance. So if you saw that other video on how to chain pixel props like a champ, what I've done here is power balance, and this helps with the data and with the ground for color consistency throughout this prop, but also going to the next prop. So I have two wires here. This is the 18 gauge pure copper monoprice cable that I took the 4-wire speaker wire and I took 2 of them out. And on this segment, it just goes across from the input, V plus, V minus, runs across and hits the V plus, V minus. In this case, it's the right before the last pixel. You don't have to be on the pigtail out. I did it here instead of on after the last pixel, so that way I didn't have anything kind of obstructing the ability for this pigtail to come out. Same thing for the power balance on this end. I didn't do it right before the first pixel. I did it after the first pixel, so that way this wire isn't obstructed on the way out. Now that I have this back piece off, let me show you the measurements here. So 32.5 inches from top to bottom. Straight across here is 20.5 inches across from the far left to the far right. We have matching holes to the front of the mini tree every 4.5 inches. These are also spaced off the side, 3/8 of an inch. And then as far as zip ties to the middle, these can be anywhere. I just happen to have them at 4.25 from the bottom, 10.25, 20, and 26 inches from the bottom. Drill to the left and right of the center in order to then attach this EMT. Returning to this side of the mini tree, if you did happen to have a pixel that needed to be replaced somewhere in here, you just need to cut the zip ties off of the one side. In this case, it'd be 8 that's holding the side together. Then you can open it up, replace the pixel, close it back up, put the 8 zip ties back on, and you're good to go again. Now we're in xLights, and we're taking a look at the layout tab of my Christmas show. You can see all 12 of the mini trees and how they're spaced out all around the yard. And I've selected mini tree number 5. Any number of them could be selected, and I'm clicking on model data, click to edit, so you can see what that looks like. When you make your custom tree, you're going to have to use something like this, like a spreadsheet, to then pick out where all of your pixels are. And I think there is a new function now where you can create your prop and then take a video or a picture of it, and xLights will map out and each of the pixel nodes, and you just have to put in what the numbers are. When I did this, that feature didn't exist. So you can see here, I've got pixel 1, pixel 2, pixel 3, 4, and this was my best approximation of where all those pixels are. It goes all the way up here. You see 12, 13, 14, 15, and I work my way back down. As shown earlier, this is 24, 25, and back up. I go down and up, and then when we get towards the top here, I do my right 2 sections are a little funky with 60, 61, 62, 63, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm kind of jumping back and forth, and that was so I didn't have to then do any kind of splicing of wiring in order to make my way back up to the top and down. The other objective of doing that was after the last pixel, which is right here at pixel 85, I wanted the output to be near the bottom. Now, if I was going to have a star on top, I probably would have just come straight down, and then on that 7th column, gone straight up and had a pigtail there for a star. But since I wasn't running a star, I wanted my last pixel to be at the bottom. So here we are with 85 at the bottom. Although the model is not perfectly symmetrical, as long as the model does follow the flow of your pixels on your custom tree and are in all the right places, xLights, when it renders any kind of effects on them, will look just fine. And that is it for this video. Thanks for the comment asking about the mini trees that are behind me. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments. What would you like to know about my show? Until next time, we'll see ya.